welcome to Beats News.
It's your 10 o'clock news.
It better not be.
Right, let's go. What's up, YouTube? It's James from Robin Henry Watches. How are we?
We are.
All
That's
less than 200 of us, maybe, for this week.
Yes.
Maybe more, with a clickbaity title.
Let's hope so. It's not clickbaity. Yes,
It's not clickbaity. Anyway, let's get into what you're wearing. What are you wearing?
I am wearing my dad's Elliot Brown Halton Nevo, my late dad's Halton Nevo. They won't tell you this, but they designed it for the special boat service, and instead they just said, we made it for the military because they're right next door.
There's a fly on the light. It's really annoying me.
It's been annoying me all night. What are you wearing?
I am wearing the Hublot
at last.
Classic Fusion Original. So what makes this one different to the other Classic Fusions is that it's like a tribute to their original one. So you get this like super clean dial.
I hated it when you first told me about it, but I actually...
Most people do hate Hublot, but most people that do are just copying the trend of, you know, like you got like...
It literally landed in my ear.
But we are talking about a fly here. It's really popular to hate Hublot, and that's all it is. The majority of people that hate on him, one, can't afford them, and two, they haven't tried one. If you've tried one, I mean, listen, if you're a die-hard vintage watch guy, you're probably not going to get it. But if you like, or you're willing to try modern brand with interesting materials, like I've said this all along, like Hublot deserve to get some of the hate they get. Some of their marketing is crass. The unlimited limited editions.
Yes.
It just goes, they definitely are over limited. But anyway, they do weird hookups. Like one of the ones from this year's was with, is it Nespresso?
Yeah.
A coffee machine.
Yeah,
They've done loads of football ones. I get it. I would say 90% of what they do I don't like, but I do like their use of materials and the art of fusion. And listen, no matter what you say, oh yeah, I know people say, oh, but they copied the AP and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they did a little bit. But one thing that there is they are the first one that popularized rubber on luxury watches. They're the first brand to do gold with rubber and make it high-end luxury and popular.
And make sure you know about it, because good luck buying anything else.
And AP copied them on that, as did bloody fly, as did we're just gonna have to leave it in because otherwise you're gonna be editing.
Yeah, it's guest starring.
Patek with their Aquanaut. Loads of brands have copied that, and Hublot are the ones that pioneered it and popularized it. I'm not saying they're the ones that ever did it, but
it's funny you mention people not being able to afford it, because if you're buying Hublot, you need to be able to afford it, because you better love it. It's when you sell it.
True. I mean, listen, their resales aren't great. They're not the worst out there, though. I'd rather take a hit on this than a Tag Heuer, or some of them, or a Jacob. And listen, they're not for everyone. That's cool, but you can't knock it until you've tried it. I've had quite a few over the years, and I do like them. This one is in titanium. Actually, for me, it's 42mm. That's big.
I like the kind of gunmetal-y finish.
Yeah,
it's not just basics titanium.
You know, the movement is it's not their in-house, because they do their own in-house movements, notably like the Unico and other things. They are a proper manufacturer now. This one isn't. It's just like their bog standard. Basically, it's a Solita copy. And price-wise, I mean, aren't all luxury brands overpriced anyway? So a
little bit.
They do go over the top sometimes, but something like this you can get for around $6,000. So
plus straps.
Plus strap costs.
Do you want to tell us why you don't like strap costs?
Well, listen, I'm very good at changing straps, but I do have a habit that if I rush something, I get obsessed. Anyway, yeah, so I overcut the strap. I made the mistake of cutting it to the right size for my wrist at that time of day because I was rushing, and then it got hot. Yeah, so I had to buy another strap.
You can put one of your 50 third-party straps on, right?
Yeah, no. You have to buy the Hublot tool. Anyway, enough about them. What we're talking about today is Patek. So,
We'll start with Patek.
We'll start with
There
Patek.
are larger ramifications here.
So it was first reported by SiliconValley.com. You can Hodinkee have reported it on it, and you can go and check out the lawsuit online.
Because there is a lawsuit.
There is a lawsuit.
Tell me about the lawsuit.
So I don't think I'm going to catch a lawsuit here by mentioning names because it's all public, right?
Yeah, it's public domain. Sure,
Okay, right.
Fine. I mean, look, out of 200 people, how many are going to be lawyers?
So yeah, exactly. So this guy, and I could be butchering his surname, Ali Razi.
I don't know. So I'm trusting you
Anyway,
on that one.
so basically, little Ali, or Big Ali, I don't know the guy, wanted a Patek 5980 1R. So he went down into the Bay Area, went to his the boutique down there, and basically the AD there was a long time Patek AD by the name of Shreve and Co. And inquired about, this lovely Patek. And basically they were like, whoa, slow down.
It's time to play the game.
You gotta grease the wheels here. You've gotta, tuck some money up our way. So he's like, okay, I'll play. I mean, long story short, he dropped $220,000. So as a breakdown,
Over the course of a year?
it was about that long. So he started with a Patek 5905R in September 2020. So that cost him $70,000. Then he bought two women's Pateks that he dropped another $100,000 on. I mean, at that point when I read that, I was like, mate, you should have just bought one on the grey market.
Yeah. If those aren't reselling.
Yeah, exactly. And then he bought a diamond bracelet in March of 22 and dropped another $50,000 on that. So in all, $220,000 from Shreve over an 18-month period. So yeah, not far from a year. During that time, basically, what he alleges is that the sales associate said, you'll get your 5980, but you got to keep spending money. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's not just them that do that. We'll get to that. Everyone does this.
They made it sound like it was Patek, not them.
Yeah. Which all these ADs do. And basically, so we'll call it, and in the lawsuit, they call it, quote unquote, the promised watch. Yeah. So he keeps spending all this money, and then suddenly,
we not do Patek.
Right? So they're like, we can't get you the watch. And he's a bit like, what the Now, where it gets interesting is that he then finds out that they knew they were losing their Patek Authorised Dealer status. So he was never going to get that Patek. No. So the question is how long were they leading him on for? And I think that's really the crux of his lawsuit is they knew they would never get it, but basically and I'm using their wording from the lawsuit, they defrauded him into spending money that they knew they'd never be able to deliver on the watch. Yep. In fact, let me quote their wording here, because I love this. So, breach of contract, intentional and negligent misrepresentation, fraudulent concealment, false promise, and unfair business practice pursuant to California's unfair competition law. So yeah, he's filed this on June 9th, and basically Shreve & Co have got 30 days to respond. And yeah, it's interesting because it's been well known in the last few years. Well, I'd say it's become common knowledge in the last few years. If you want a Patek, an AP, or a Rolex, you have to have what we call spend history.
And Tudor's trying to wangle in there as well now, although that's...
Probably, but I mean, that's certainly to a lesser degree. Yeah. So, what's the chances of the success? And also, should he win, what's the ramifications? Mm-hmm. Because suddenly, if they lose this lawsuit,
it's far-reaching.
Who's the biggest player of this game? And I know Rolex say it's not them, it's their ADs, but it's Rolex ADs. They're going to be sweating. I wouldn't be surprised, right? The CEO of Shreve & Co is basically going to have to do a whip round, right? Call up every Patek dealer, every Rolex dealer, and be like, bro, we can't lose this, so you got to put in. And they're going to be like, I don't want to put in on this. He's like, dude, we need to lawyer up, because if we lose, you're coming down with me. That's the thing. I think the reality is he's got a good chance of winning, but that's because of the deception angle. Exactly.
But if he does win, it will still have far-reaching effects. It's not. You couldn't win a lawsuit for having to spend money to get a better Rolex. You're not going to win a lawsuit because you have to buy.
But how many people have been let's be honest, how many people have been misled by Rolex CDs? And I'm not talking about ones that have then lost their status, but all these sales associates, whether it's coming from them or from higher up in their companies, from their supervisors, their managers, regional managers, CEOs, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, let's be honest, that most people are pushed into buying Rolexes that they don't want.
Yeah.
Now listen, you can't cry too much, because I'm sure a lot of these people flip them and make money along the way. Because I get people contact, it's died down this year, but certainly prior to this year, people would always be like, how much will you give me on this? And I'll be like, so what year? And they'll be like, oh, I've just been offered it. It's like, so you're trying to sell me a watch that you don't have, and you want to make me pay for the profit on the watch. Nah, it's not for me. But yeah, people are trying to make money along the way. And I've had people that are like, oh, I just got offered this lady's Datejust, but I'm like, no, you're going to lose money. And they're like, well, I don't want it then. It's like, well, listen, you play the game. You're playing snakes and ladders here. Sometimes you're going to hit a snake, right? But when you hit that GMT or that Daytona, you're going on a ladder all the way to the top. So
this is the thing.
There's two sides to it, for sure.
They don't need to replicate this lawsuit across all the other ADs for all the other brands for it to change. If they win this lawsuit, it'll be on the basis they deceived it because they were losing their status. But that opens the door.
Yeah, I think it does.
Lawsuits on deception in total. You go on Reddit, the amount of I saw one the other day. A guy had the regular conversation with his AD person, his contact inside.
Everyone's got their own contact,
exactly.
their own
like, oh,
social.
Where's my Daytona? Is it? I've got a chance of getting it soon, and they're like, oh, I don't work there anymore. But they had 2 in the last year. They just didn't give it to you.
So is that deception?
Exactly.
What about if your sales associate leaves, which I've heard that one a lot. Oh, my sales guy left. Now I'm done.
Yeah.
Or what about all the people, there have been a lot of dealers that have lost their Rolex AD status as Rolex has tightened it. Same with Patek, where they've narrowed down their ADs. They're trying to go to less distribution and finer channels.
Yeah.
They're opening up their own brand boutiques. I mean, I would say at least this: if he wins, you'll be hearing about it more often, and there will be people out there that have a case.
Yeah.
But again, then, like I said, you've got to balance it with, well, how much money they make. I mean, this guy probably sounds like he could, if he dropped 220 grand in a year and a half, at the very least, even if he flipped like his Patek, the 2 women's ones he would have lost money on, and a diamond bracelet or necklace, whatever it was.
Well, that's never getting resold.
I mean, the markup on those are insane.
This is the thing. It doesn't need to be a replication, but it will have effects if he wins, regardless.
And I would say as well, like if you're that person and you're spending 220 grand to get $100,000 watch, and whatever the price of that went up to, it's like, I mean, that's an odd mathematics, but like if you're someone that just wants to get to a Daytona or a GMT or even a Submariner, like sometimes you've got to think life is short. If you've got this much money, you're already probably in the top 1% of earners, right? Because you can afford to drop, let's say 10, 15, 20 grand on a completely useless object. You're already doing well.
Whoa,
how about
useless? What's useless is Rihanna's Jacob & Co. choker.
That's for another video, surely. But it's like, buy the watch you want, be happy. Like if you're having to pay a premium through a grey market dealer, I don't know, let's say like 2 grand for your sub, life's short. Buy your sub. I mean, listen, I'll always say though, I'm not saying that, get business for them or whatever, but if you can get it at retail, always do that. But if not, just buy the watch you want and enjoy it. You're going to pay a small, but Jesus Christ, there's that fly sitting there. There's one buzzing around.
I haven't even seen that one. There are 2. They're breeding.
I know.
Around us.
Bloody in like the sticks here.
I'm going to file a lawsuit against the fly.
My house is built in a swamp. It's a swamp.
Get rid of our swamp.
But I mean, listen, it's interesting. I'm just going to sit back with my popcorn and my beer and watch how this plays out. I think it's hilarious. And I do think as well, authorised dealers need to be held to account. They are shady. We've talked about this before. There's been charges against authorised dealers, Rolex AD in the US for racketeering. they're criminals.
There's shady
I mean,
stuff going on. Not
okay,
all of them.
listen,
Locally,
let me recheck myself there. They're allegedly with criminal activity. And there are good ADs, yeah, like our local one is good, and loads of people get great watches. So, you know, and back when I was a collector, I was a benefactor of it. So, I've got no complaints. I mean, I never got a Daytona. I went on the grey market to get one. I bought one out of London.
You got told off, did your time?
For that, yeah, but yeah, what are you going to do? But yeah, sometimes I just think, and some of them are shady and they need to be called out for it. And that's why it's not always the best route for every person to go down, the authorised dealer route. There's other options out there. So all I always say is do your homework, do your due diligence, see what's best for you. If you're going to buy just one watch and you want to enjoy that watch, and let's say it's a hard to get watch, you weigh up the maths and just think, well, maybe I just want to buy it and just get the watch I want and enjoy it. Some people will say, well, it's about the journey, and maybe if that's for you, that's good. And if you can make some money along the way, great, do that too. But just be careful right now, because the market is like, it's not easy. It's not easy to make money. I was talking to someone while I was away, and they were in the sneaker business, and I was like, yeah, well, they've come down. And I was like, it was the same for watches. I took a significant loss last year on some watches. And I'm not saying I made a loss. I did all right last year, but a significant loss that, I could have bought myself a nice car with my losses. But, you're in the game, you got to play by the rules,
It's a slippery slope. It could go as far. If he wins this, there could be a major class action lawsuit against the manufacturers at this point.
I don't think it'd go against the manufacturer, but it could go against groups. Imagine, right? Let's say someone big. I'm chucking a name out there, and I'm not saying they've ever done this or ever would do, but let's say Watches of Switzerland, right? They're in the US or in the UK, whatever. Imagine if 100 or 200 customers, right, were grouped together by a law firm, and just were we all feel that we've been...
But this is what I mean. If they go for them, at what point do the ADs go, I don't like this? Yeah, Rolex told me to do that.
Well, Rolex has always been very clear that they don't have anything to do with the sales practices in stores.
As far as their PR goes.
Yeah,
a lawsuit
allegedly.
unveils an awful lot of things.
Yeah, suddenly the ADs might want to start rolling on the things, but then again, can they afford to? You can't afford to lose a Patek status, a Rolex AD status.
That's the thing, the lawsuits can unveil all sorts of internal comms, letters from Rolex saying, we'd like it if you did this, and in return, keep your status.
I mean, who knows? It's going to be super interesting. And I'm not saying that, any AD would have done that. I don't want to be catching anything either, but...
It's all big court drama at the moment between this and Amiga and...
Yeah, well, listen, that's another video again on its entirety, which people have may seen.
It's a lot of popcorn drama.
I like it. I like it.
I like not being in it.
Yeah, I like not being in it. I like watching it. Amiga's obviously got caught out being defrauded by its own employees and the head of the museum.
Actually, Amiga caught itself out, which makes it more interesting.
Well, they didn't catch it. Periscope catched it.
But they
it was almost the perfect crime. Like all good crimes.
If it wasn't for Inspector Gadget in the corner.
Exactly. Well, let's wrap that up there. But listen, drop your thoughts below. I'd be interested to hear your stories of if you've been forced into buying things that you didn't want to get the watches on. Let's not start our own lawsuit. Absolutely not. I'm having nothing to do with it. I just want to hear what other people have, they've been made to buy stuff or encouraged to buy stuff, because all of this is obviously at this point it's only allegedly, and I'm not saying that any of it happened. I'm just reporting on what I've read in other media outlets.
I would just say though, in the elements of fairness, if anyone here is inspired by this video to do a lawsuit, I think it's only morally right that we are a partial beneficiary of any.
Oh yes.
Can you call it winnings? Damages?
Damages, not winnings.
Winnings.
Any benefits of your lawsuit, but none of the negativity.
Yes.
Check out the shop, robinhenrywatches.com. Got some Rolex, got some Amiga, got some Tudor. Might be a Cartier in there today, we're not sure, because it's ready to go, but I've got someone looking at that one tomorrow, so who knows. So yeah.
Cool.
we're out. Goodbye from me and the flies.
No flies.